Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sarah van Grennen, aka Mr. VG, and welcome to this section where we are going to look at preparing or writing a grade 10 paper 1. So we are going to work through this through a paper that I set up, and we are going to have a look at this step by step. Because, look, in my experience, I found that grade 10 is a tough year, because it's the first year where we start throwing things together more and more. In other words, we're starting to mix up different chapters, applying chapters inside other chapters, where grade 7, 8, 9, a lot of your knowledge was isolated. So it was working in silos. Now, when we said factorized, we just mean factorized. But now we're going to say solve, which also means factorize. So it's going to be starting this journey of applying different chapters inside other chapters. So please buckle in and get your pens ready, because I'm going to show and share with you how do I approach a grade 10 paper 1. So grade 10 paper 1, is kind of a toughie at times, because, teachers, we can be quite nasty. So I'm going to share with you how to do this specific question. But what I would like you to do first of all is try and solve these sums by yourself. So when I look at this, ladies and gents, and this was now my question 1, solve the following. Okay, I know that a lot of other papers maybe started with algebra, but in our paper we started with solve the following equations. Now, the reason why I started with this is to kind of get you in the flow for grade 11 and 12. Grade 11 and 12 in question 1 of paper 1, it's most of the time going to be solve the following. So when I look at this first one, I'm not just going to run into it. I'm first of all going to see there are brackets next to one another. So my first instinct is multiply out. But because of that equal to 0, I am not going to multiply out. This is the only time when I don't multiply out brackets. Why? Because it's already in the form of a times b equal to naught. I've got one thing times by something else equal to naught, which is actually the zero product rule. So therefore, either the first bracket is going to be naught or the second bracket is going to be naught, which means that I'm going to have x minus 2 equal to naught, a linear equation, which gives me x equal to 2. Or x plus 1 must be naught, and therefore x must be negative 1. Now, one of the most common misconceptions that I've come across is that students are like, but sir, or means choosing. No, or doesn't mean choosing, okay? Or just means that there are two possibilities. The reason also why we use or is if I look at a number line, okay? If I look at the number line, negative 1 on the number line is about there, while 2 is there. So in other words, the one option is there and the other option is there. Are they at the same place? No. So we've got to use or. Think about being in your bed and in class. Now, if you're a homeschooler, well, that is and. Because you can be in your bed and in class. But if you are a traditional scholar going to school every day, you can't be in your bed and in class at the same time. So you're going to use or. Same in mathematics. Because I've got two options that don't overlap, they're not happening at the same place, we've got to use the word or. So it's not an option, but it is just, it's not your ability to choose, am I using -1 or 2? It's just that they don't apply at the same place. So it is two options and they both solve the equation. Let's quickly move on to the next one. I've got now this specific equation, okay? Question 2. What do I see in question 2? Well, in question 2, I've got a fraction. So what I love to do with my students, and I know other teachers are going to teach you differently, and I am not going to say use my method, but I love to teach one thing throughout. Whenever I see a fraction, what did I do in algebra? Well, I got the LCD. So I'm going to do exactly the same, but just in an equation. Now, what's the LCD of 2 and 5? 10. So if I look at this, I'm going to make my denominators 10. So I'm going to say, well, the first one I've got to times by 5 over 5. The 3 I've got to times by 10 over 10. And the x plus 2 over 5 I've got to times by 2. And here comes a very interesting little tidbit that I'm going to tell you that you can use for your own future. Whenever your denominators are the same, your numerators must also be the same, because left-hand side must be equal to right-hand side. Now, I know what a lot of teachers would do is say, just multiply by the LCD. It's exactly what I'm basically doing. Because if I times by 10 on the left, the 10s are just going to fall away. If I times by 10 on the right, the 10s are just going to fall away, leaving you in any case with the denominators or the numerators being equal. Now, what kind of an equation are you left with? You are left with a linear equation. Why? Why is it linear? Simply because there's a power of 1 in the exponents. So how do I solve a linear equation? Get all my x's on one side and all the numbers on the other side. So when I look at this, I'm going to have 5x plus 2x, and then I'm going to have 30 minus 4 plus 5. Some teachers talk about transposing. A negative goes over and it becomes a positive. Or you could see it as just adding 5 on both sides, for instance. Now, on the left-hand side, it is 7x equal to 31. Dividing by 7 on both sides, x is 31 over 7. Please leave your answer as is. Okay? Leave your answer as is. Why? It's the most accurate answer. You can go and say 4 and 3 over 7. Oh, my words are struggling this morning. 4 and 3 over 7. But please don't put it in decimals. It's not that accurate unless you write out all the decimals or you go towards recurring decimals. Okay, but leave it as is. Teachers love this. So when I look at this, our next sum is now we're sitting with a very similar sum to A1, but now I don't have equal to 0. So if I don't have equal to 0, now I'm going to multiply out and see what kind of an equation am I sitting with. So multiplying out the left-hand side, I'm going to get a quadratic equation. Now that's something I want to teach you is learn to identify what kind of an equation, come up with a game plan and apply the game plan. Why is it quadratic? It has a power of 2. That's the degree of the polynomial, a second degree polynomial. So therefore, I have to get equal to 0. Once I've got equal to 0, I'm going to now factorize the left-hand side, okay? The left-hand side is a beautiful polynomial, x minus 3 and x plus 3 now equal to 0. Because it is equal to 0, I'm going to say, therefore, x minus 4 x plus 3, both of them could be equal to 0, and therefore x is either 4 or negative 3. Again, not options, meaning you can choose between them, but both of them are possible answers for that equation. Okay, very important. Now we get to question A4. 3 times 2 to the power of x plus 2 minus 0.75 equal to 0. But now, what kind of an equation is this, ladies and gentlemen? It is an exponential equation. Why? The x is in the exponent. Kind of logic, don't you agree with me? Okay? Once I know it is exponential, I've got to follow the basic steps for solving an exponential equation. And here are your basic 3 steps. Number 1, isolate the power. What is the power? That's the 2 to the x plus 2. Make the bases the same and then equate the exponents. So I'm first going to get that 2 to the power of x plus 2 alone on one side. Now, that plus or that minus 0.75 becomes 0.75. If I divide by 3 on both sides, I get 0.25. Great, I've isolated the power. I make it a quarter. Why? Because it's going to make my step 2 easier. So once I've isolated the power, now I've got to make the bases equal. Now, 4 is 2 squared. If I take the 2 squared to the top, it's going to become 2 to the negative 2. So my bases are equal. Both of them are 2 to the power of something. Because the bases are the same, the exponents are also going to be the same. Therefore, I'm now sitting with a linear equation where I've got to make the x the subject. Okay? Making x the subject, so I'm going to take that negative or that plus 2 to the other side, and I'm going to be left with x equal to negative 4. And I've got only one possible solution. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stop the video at this moment, and I'm going to, just for the sake of time, going to tell you the question B, solving simultaneously, I'm going to do in the next video, because I know that it's going to take me a while, okay? So please tune in into our next video specifically about solving simultaneously. Then we are going to solve this question in both methods. So this is Mr. VG signing out. Tune in to our next video and I will show you how to solve simultaneously.